Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Wellcast. Howard Jacobson here, Chief of Behavioral Science at WellStart Health, co-author of Sick to Fit. We have a new website, by the way, sick2fit.com. And I'm also the host of the Plant Yourself podcast. And today's talk is all about me. And it's to me and for me. This is the sermon that I need to hear right now in my life. And the title of this talk is from a Shakespeare play. I don't know, it's like Richard the something, I think, maybe, the third, maybe. It says, I wasted time and now time doth waste me. And it's kind of this, very, type A personality, like, don't let a moment of time slip through your fingers. Don't waste it. If you waste it, you're going to end up regretting it. And so what I talk about today is the effect of the thing that I tend to do, unless I'm really paying attention and working on it, which is to feel like I'm always 5 minutes behind. Like wherever I am, I'm a little behind. If I go to the store and I know I have to get something in the produce aisle, the dry goods aisle, and the fake milk aisle. That's with a Y, so don't sue me, Dannon. MYLK. So I'll be in the produce aisle. I'll be kind of looking at my watch, or my imaginary watch, since no one wears them anymore, thinking, I gotta get home. I don't want to be late. Like I'm already rushing in a little late. I pulled into the parking lot a little bit late. I had to stop at a couple of red lights and there was a construction and I had to wait. And it just feels like I'm constantly revving a little faster than I'm moving. Like that James Taylor song, damn that traffic jam, hurts my engine to go so slow. It's like, I want to be going faster. And like that's considered good, right? That's admirable in our society to want to go faster, to want to be really hyper efficient, to get everything done. One of the top genres of self-help and personal productivity is sort of time management and productivity hacks. And just today I was watching a video on this ninja approach to managing your Gmail inbox using getting things done in multiple inboxes. All right, so like clearly we don't want to waste time. We don't want to spend years doing nothing useful, nothing important, and then at the end of our lives go, gosh, where did that all go? Was that all there was? But there's a big difference between wasting time by not knowing where we're going or not having the courage or the opportunity to tie our moment-to-moment lives to where we're going, and not wasting time in terms of squeezing everything out of every single second, right? So there's a type of optimization that can occur in the moment. We've optimized the moment and we end up sub-optimizing the entire system. All right. And so today I drop a YouTube interview with Stephen Porges, who is the creator of the polyvagal theory. And for my money, the polyvagal theory is one of the most important scientific breakthroughs of the last 30 years in terms of its significance for human happiness, in terms of what it offers incrementally over everything that has come before it to inform how human beings should live, how we should structure our society, how we should interact with one another, how we should manage ourselves, where we should spend our money as a society. I can't overstate the importance of polyvagal theory to the human project. And the central theme, and I want you to go watch the video today and tomorrow morning or mid-afternoon, the podcast, the audio will publish along with my pre and post. And the basic premise. Hold on. The subtitle of the pocket guide to the polyvagal theory is The Transformative Power of Feeling Safe. And feeling safe was what we talked about. And this isn't about feeling safe in your mind, like, okay, I have a lot of money in the bank and I live in a gated community and the chances of this happening are very low. And so no, it's a neurological assessment of your immediate environment. And here's what I realized when I was talking with Dr. Porges, is that when we are in a state of neurological fear, sort of, which is to say we assess threat in our environment, that significantly compromises our function. It compromises the amount of resources that we're willing to put towards growth, towards exploration of our world, toward curiosity, toward creativity, toward reaching out and forming connections, social connections with other human beings, right? Because if we can't be in a defensive and an open state at the same time. So being in fear neurologically, where you can think of it in case if you're in a very safe, officially safe environment and you're still in fear, think of it like a faulty, over-triggered smoke detector. Every time you cook toast, it goes off. Every time you boil spaghetti, it goes off. And you've got to believe it, right? Because you don't, with the nervous system, we never get negative feedback like, oh, this was safe. We're always like, well, better safe than sorry. So we can get incorrect, inappropriate feedback all the time and never learn from it. And in fact, the more inappropriate and incorrect feedback we get about our world being unsafe, the more it actually reinforces the concept that our world is unsafe. Because then we start acting in ways that signal that we are in fear. And, like bullies can sniff out a victim. And when we become fearful and we want to preempt violence, we can often be aggressive in our own demeanor and actually trigger it. One of the things I've learned from Glenn Murphy, my Systema instructor, is that by maintaining sort of a calm, strong disposition, you can actually discourage other displays of violence or dominance by being the dominant character trait in the room, not by being defensive or by going on the offensive, but by radiating a calm safety, like everything's cool. So when we are in fear, when our environment seems to us to be under threat, then we are, first of all, as I said, unable to divert resources to growing, creative, healing modalities. But we also have a hard time with our health behaviors. So here's what this has to do with what I talk about all the time, which is our health behaviors. That if we feel like we are under threat, it severely, and I've talked about this in the last few Facebook Lives, it severely limits our ability, our capacity to make good, rational, long-term choices. Simply because the part of the brain that makes those long-term choices is selectively being taken offline because it's too damn slow and too damn ambiguous and too damn thoughtful to get us out of situations of real threat. So let's turn that down, the thinking brain, the one that plans ahead and strategizes, and let's amp up the lizard brain that makes instant decisions about, fight or flight or freeze or fold or mate with. The other F. And that's the kind of energy we need if we're in a situation of great urgency and threat. Deep breath. Now, what does this have to do with time? So in my own life, feeling like I am always behind a little bit, I'm always rushing, I'm always trying to play catch up, is essentially the same feeling as being under threat. There's this resource that I don't have priority access to, and there's nothing more important than time. There's no resource that is irreplaceable like time in a linear way of thinking. I waste 5 minutes, it's gone. I waste $5, I can make $5 again. Right? I spill some water, I can go get some more water. I waste a year doing the wrong thing, that year's gone. It ain't coming back. So there's a way in which time is kind of a primary resource, and viewing it as in short supply, as not enough for me, puts us in that threat state. And I can't remember where I read this, but I read it pretty recently. Our experience of time, maybe it was in Polyvagal. Let me see if, does he have an index? He doesn't. Oh, Stephen, you need an index. Maybe it was that book. But our experience of time is essentially our experience of life. They're the same thing, right? If we're asleep or unconscious, we can be living for 2 hours or 4 hours or 8 hours, but we don't experience that as life. It's the time that we are around, that we're conscious, that we're aware, is our life. And so being behind means that we feel like we are missing out on life. We are shortchanged on life. Our experience of life is always behind the 8 ball in a condition of lack. And that reinforces the polyvagal threat syndrome, where we are always in fight or flight, right? If you're behind, flight is a good idea to catch up. Got to run to catch up. Always behind. And so when we feel like we're always behind, we're always trying to rev. Hurts my motor to go so slow. We're revving, and very often we can't go faster. So like a perfect time to be behind and to rev your fight or flight is in a race, when you can actually move your body. You can kick your legs higher, you can increase your cadence, you can pump your arms more, you can kick more from off of your big toes, and you can actually go faster. And so you kind of sublimate all that stuff into a natural movement. When you have to fight or flee, and you get to fight or flee, then things kind of work out, and then you can go back into a recovery mode later, assuming you survive the fight or you run away. But if our fight or flight is constantly being revved in the produce aisle or the dry goods aisle or the driver's seat of a car in a traffic jam, and it never gets to move, we're just constantly moving into this fight or flight. And what Stephen Porges tells us is that when fight or flight doesn't work, the organism often interprets that as deadly imminent threat. And so in the case, if you're in the jaws of the predator, you can't escape. Fighting doesn't work because it's overwhelming. Then we fold. We go into depression. We go into dissociation. So a constant revving can leave us exhausted. And I've certainly experienced this a lot in my life, where I'm just running around like crazy, and I get home and I just feel like, adrenal fatigue. I don't want to do anything. Or you live that way for weeks or months or years, right? Like the parenting years of small children. You never feel like, I'm here, there's enough time, I can just breathe and relax. You're always behind the 8 ball. You always got to run and do something else. Always something else that has to be done. And internalizing that feeling can lead to burnout, to all the different weird chronic fatigues and Epstein bars and things that science may claim they can't find. But we understand instinctively that our spirits can get to the point where they just can't keep up the fight or flight, the metaphorical fight or flight. And it's a relief to kind of go into fold. As much as it may hurt, as much as it may interfere with our lives and cause us great pain, there's also part of our body that's saying, oh, thank God, I couldn't do it. I couldn't keep doing it. So what are the antidotes to this rushing around, this constant behind the 8 ball? I'm 5 minutes behind. I've got to catch up. I've got to rush. So one thing that I've been doing, inspired by a lot of people, a lot of programs, but most recently by Peter Bregman when I assisted him at Esalen in April. The last day he said, hey, let's, want to meditate together. And he meditated. He said, I meditate every morning, first thing when I get out of bed, and then in the afternoon or evening sometime. And from that moment, when I meditated with him for 20 minutes and it was really nice, I have been meditating daily, twice a day. And I got to say, it was not as hard a habit to install as I thought, because it was kind of like a habit of drinking water when you're really, really thirsty, or eating a Snickers bar, because it was an immediate, I don't want to say a dopamine rush, but an immediate good feeling of, I'm going to take time that my brain is telling me I don't have. There's a great quote attributed to Gandhi where he's planning his day with an assistant, and he says, I have to meditate for an hour. And the assistant demurs and points out his schedule and all the different meetings he has and all the places he has to go. And he says, oh, you're right. That is a busy day. I better meditate for 2 hours. And so I don't think we necessarily need 1 hour or 2 hours, but when I'm doing 20 minutes, 20 minutes is just long enough that it's too long, right? Like 10 minutes, I can say, okay, I can fit this in. I can justify it in normal terms, in terms of my calendar. Like, yeah, it's a fifth, sixth of an hour, that'll do. 20 minutes is like, this is a little unreasonable. And so in order to do it, I have to let go of the idea of reasonable. And I sit and the thoughts all come, and I let them go, and I go back to my breathing, and the thoughts come again. And at a certain point in the meditation, something flips and time becomes less important. And we realize, in terms of physics, I don't believe there's any physicist who has ever found time, like that it exists. It's a useful fiction, but we can't actually identify it the same way we could identify mass or coordinates. Like time is just something we made up, and we found things that oscillate at certain rates that we can attach time to. But is there really such a thing as time? A lot of philosophies, a lot of religions, a lot of spiritual traditions, a lot of scientists, like quantum scientists, tend to think that time isn't a real thing, or it's not what we think it is. I remember reading in Stephen Hawking's book, was A Brief History of the Universe, that there are these particles that go backwards in time. And I'm like, what? Like, this is a scientist. This isn't, an astrologer, right? Or a screenwriter for Robert Zemeckis movies or something. This is like real science, like the smartest guy in the world. So meditation for me takes me out of linear time and remind me that there's other ways to be. Another thing then, now that I've been meditating, I have more access to just appreciating moments. Like this morning, the four of us were in the kitchen, and the kids are bantering, and someone's making a little joke about something. And my kids are old; they're 23 and 20. They're any moment now they could fly away from the house and move somewhere. And I'm like, oh, this is a special moment. It's nothing special, and it's special. And just that putting a pin in time and saying this, it's the smelling the roses equivalent. It's appreciating that this, now, here, good. Yeah, it's annoying sometimes. Yeah, there's conflict. But this is here now, and it's for me. And this is what life is. Life is made up of these moments, and I get to decide how much I pay attention to them or not, how special they are to me, or how ordinary, or how annoying and how negative, and how I want to escape from them. Which brings me to the other thing, now when I feel those impulses to I got to be somewhere else, it's an impulse to escape from the now. It's the same impulse as I got to check my phone while I'm waiting online in Costco, because here and now is unbearable. And the here and now is unbearable. The way I am in the world right now is something that I want to escape from, is kind of the root of every negative health behavior. Right? I want to change my state, because the state of here and now is not optimal. It's not even endurable. until we learn to endure it. And we don't learn to endure it when we constantly short circuit it with food, with drink, with alcohol, with sex, with workaholism, with screen addiction, with all the other things that we do to escape from our state in the here and now. And practicing being in the here and now, not being in the dry goods aisle when I'm in the produce aisle, but, oh, look, Romanesque broccoli. That shit's so beautiful. Look at it. It's fractal. It's like, wow. Like, you can do that. There's no reason not to. It's not insane or unreasonable to look at some fractal thing in nature, whether it's a sunflower head or Romanesque broccoli or the Mandelbrot set, and just be like, oh my gosh, this is so trippy, right? We don't need to use psychedelics to appreciate the trippiness of life, the beauty inherent in moments. So that's not an exhaustive list of how to deal with time. But if you are finding, like me, that time is often your enemy, that you're like, feel like you're emotionally living in the movie where the bomb is ticking and you have to defuse it. If that's your experience, start looking for ways to be more expansive, to be more in what I call an eternal now, where you forget about the clock, where you forget about the schedule. And obviously don't miss appointments, don't stand people up, don't become flaky. But to create, even within what you might perceive as a very demanding, busy, unreasonable schedule, these little islands of appreciation, of breath, of enjoyment, of savoring this moment, this. That can really help bring down our nervous system into a state where we can socially engage, where we're not constantly, I gotta run. Like, no one wants to be around that person, right? If someone looks at their watch, it's a signal to us that they're not socially engaged. All right? If someone's staring down at their phone, they want to be somewhere else. It's not a framework for relationship. So take a look in your life. Notice, kind of a little self-assessment. How much time do you spend in fight or flight from the now? And see if there's some things that you can begin to do through breath, through thought, through meditation, through anything that brings you into present awareness. And see what that does for the ripple out into the rest of your day, into your life, into your health. What else is important to talk about? The retreat, Sick to Fit, sick2fit.com/retreat. We're starting to fill up. I'm really excited about this. So if you feel like you want to join me and Josh for a long weekend of intense casualness, of great sociability, of transformation, check it out, sick2fit.com/retreat. It's November 14th through 17th. Read about it on that page. You can then register for an enrollment interview, and we can figure out if it's a good fit. Love to see you there if it's right for you. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Have a great day.